All right, we'll move on to kind of our to be determined category here. Three teams to finish it off. We've got the New York Rangers, who sit at the top of this division, the Capitals, who are in seventh, and the Columbus Blue Jackets in eighth. So let's get to the Rangers, guys. At the top of the board here, 63 points. They've, kind of had a bit of a drop off in play the last 10 games. They're only 4-5-1, but the Rangers are at the top of this division. What a start to the season it was for them. Panarin has been unbelievable once again. Let's talk about the Rangers.
Yeah, the interesting thing about the Rangers, and I don't, we have these as we'll see because we're slightly off on them at the beginning of the year, but really we said there's three teams that we expected to be really good in this division, and any of them could win it, and the Rangers being one of them. What's interesting about this team is that they haven't been that good 5-on-5. They've been quite average, actually. They're expected to get about half the goals. They're getting slightly less than that at 5-on-5, and their power play has been excellent. Their PK has been good, so those are canceling out. What's been interesting about this team is how they're capitalizing on the odd men on the ice in overtime or 4-on-4. They're a plus 13 goal differential in other on Money Puck. If you search for that, I was trying to find why is this team so good? They're scoring at some strange times, and it's really working out for them. We already touched on how Shesterkin has been not very good this year, but Jonathan Quick is picking up the slack there. That's for sure. And Panarin, man, I got to shout out Panarin. He is having an MVP caliber season. He's just being out MVP'd by Cooch and Mac and Crosby. But God, Panarin's been excellent this year. Maybe it's because he was non-existent in the playoffs and he feels like he owes his team. I don't know what it is, but the top end scoring and the power play, that's what's getting it done in New York.
Yeah, I mean, no shock the power play is good. They've had a lethal power play for years now. Like the one year when Chris Kreider scored 50 goals, more than half of them were on the power play. So, it's been good for a while, so there's no shock there. But like you're kind of alluding to, Case, when you look at the rest of the numbers on this team, like possession and scoring chances for and against, they're kind of just mid, which is so shocking, which makes it so shocking that Shesterkin has been below average too, because you'd think that, they're not giving up a ton of chances. They're still in the middle of the pack, but Shesterkin's been pretty leaky, and, Quick has clearly been able to thrive in this system. There's something going on there. I'm not really sure what it is, but yeah, all the numbers just point to this team being mid.
Well, everything being mid, and then the goal score or the goaltending being kind of poor, you'd expect this team to be in a third spot.
Yeah,
like we had them, but here they are, first place because they score goals.
Yeah, and they're probably going to buy at the deadline. I think they're a playoff lock. They're maybe they're not as good as maybe we don't think they're as good as they are right now in the standings, but they're still a pretty damn good team. So they're going to buy. They're going to get better, at even strength. And, maybe they are just hoping that Shesterkin gets better because you're not adding a goalie, obviously. And it's not like he's been unplayable. He just hasn't been himself. And the standard for him is higher than most other goalies in the league. So
he's been league average.
Exactly.
You just expect him to be the best in the league.
Exactly. And that's the same, going back to Sorokin too. He's another guy who's just been league average, and we expect him to be much better. So I don't know. It's an interesting team to look at. A lot of mid going on right here. The Panarin talk for Hart, that would be fun, but you're right. He's getting out-hearted by the other candidates. Can we add Matthews to that conversation too, please? The guy might score 70 goals this year. I feel like he deserves it. He might only get 10 assists on the entire season, but he might score 70 goals. So I feel like he's warranted to be in the conversation. But
Fine.
Okay. Thank you, Harper, arbitrator of Hart Trophy discussion.
Yeah, I'll put him at 9
Yeah.
once you talk about the Vancouver boys.
Yeah,
That's
true.
right.
True. Well, that's because you got money on Pettersson. That's why. But
yeah.
Which, by the way, it's looking pretty all right. But last thing I want to say about the Rangers is Panarin, going back to him. I feel like this has been said before, but maybe one of the best free agent signings ever. Like one of the guys who has just lived up to an enormous contract. Like you can't say that often. And I feel like, I know, Casey mentioned he wasn't good in the playoffs last year, but just a guy who consistently scores and just does it all for this team. So congrats to him for keeping it going. Great.
I'll say he's one of the best free agent signings ever after he tears it up in the playoffs this year.
Fair.
If he doesn't, then
because kind of overall, I think it's safe to say like he hasn't been that great of a playoff performer. Is that fair to say? Like in his career in general?
I would have to look. I'm not.
Took down
not
Tampa
exactly
Bay
sure.
Lightning with the 8th place, or worse than 8th. Was that the bubble? Swept the Tampa Bay Lightning when they were the best team ever.
Yes.
True.
I only remember that because of the handshake with Kucherov.
Yeah, but then couldn't even get past the Devils. Idiots.
Yeah, but no, he's back. He's been excellent. Adam Fox, great. Keandre Miller, I think, is a really underrated defenseman as well. Trouba, tries to go out and decapitate someone every single night, and it's just crazy to think like with this team, as good as they are. Shesterkin has not been a world beater, very much like Sorokin, like we said. If it weren't for Jonathan Quick picking up a lot of the slack, like where would this team be in the standings? Like that's a question that I heard that got asked the other
probably
day.
Third place, like we predicted.
Yeah, wouldn't be that big of a drop off, but like there's an argument to be made there. They wouldn't be this good, and maybe have the kind of start that they did. But I think for this team, they need to add more speed to their lineup. I think that they've gotten older. It seemed like 5 minutes ago that they put a letter out to the fans that we're gonna rebuild this thing, and it was a retool is what it was. They turned it around very quickly, made it to the Final Four a couple of years ago, and we're looking at them like contenders again, but obviously they're looking for a third line center, and that sucks what happened to Philip Hedl. He's had a long history of concussions and is going to be out for the rest of the season, so certainly expect them to add a third line center, or at least try to, whether it's a Henrique, a Monahan, whoever, but I think they need to add some speed in their bottom six. We saw that they put Bonino on waivers, and I just think that part of this 4-5-1 stretch, a part of the reason for that, this kind of drop is I think they're just getting outskated by some other teams. So that's something that they're going to have to address a little bit, but I like the Rangers. They're a good team, and I think that Shesterkin can certainly get back to being the Shesterkin that we know. So